started talking about scrambling, hey guys, please. We started scrambling, which differentiates the different cells. The same OVSF code tree has to be repeated in every cell because that's the only tree you have available. I told you that, say, the 4 particular bit sequences, when you have 4 bits long codes, you have 16 core combinations possible, but only those 4 cores are available with the orthogonal relationship. So you don't have a 5th one. Similarly, when you go for a spring factor 32, you don't have a 33rd one. So you have limited number of OVSF codes. And with these codes, you are operating the same cell because within the same cell, you maintain orthogonal relationship. But in a different cell, what do? You just have to repeat the same OVSF code tree. That could be a problem because it's just it's an adjacent cell. But there are 2 things to keep in mind. First of all, there is a scrambling operation on top of that. And I think we discussed it to the extent that we also discussed the using downlink like PSC. We spoke of PSC, right? Did we? We didn't. Oh, scrambling I did not discuss at all? Oh, okay. Yeah, then all the way begin. So, in 2G, we allocate different frequency and time resources to the users in the same cell. There is never a repetition. Okay, in 2G, it cannot be repeated. In 4G, it can be. In 5G especially, some good level of repetitions are possible. But in 2G, there is no repetition within the same cell. Everybody will have unique frequency and resource. In the case of 3G, everybody will have unique OVSF code. Okay, it is never repeated within the same cell. But in 2G, we must remember that we had different colors of cells in a cluster, and the clusters repeated, meaning that, say, when you repeat the violet cell, the same radio frequencies are repeated there. So in a different cell, you do repeat. Why do you repeat? Why repeat there? Yeah, co-channels. Why do you? Because you have some limited resources available. It is not indefinite. So you have to repeat, otherwise you have limited resources which you keep repeating. So here also we have, by resource actually I mean, it is bandwidth, but it's like some wireless, something that can be used to transfer the information bits. Okay? In the case of, say, 2G, it's a 200 kilohertz chunk that you use there, so there is the bandwidth, but also there is some time slot definition. You only have, in terms of the resources is actually time frequency resource. In terms of both frequency and time, right? In the case of CDMA, everybody keeps using the whole bandwidth and at all times. So in terms of time frequency, you cannot define any resources. But the OVSF code actually here takes care of the same thing. It works as the resource. Everybody is given a unique OVSF code, but there is also a limitation. We know that it's say at the level of 32, only 32 cores are available. So these are the limitation of resources. You cannot allocate a 33rd one with that data. If you go for a higher data like 4, only 4 people can be allocated. So there is some limitation of resources. Okay, now this OVSF code tree is fixed, and so how do you take care of a different cell? Well, we just have to repeat the whole code tree. So in CDMA, every cell repeats the same OVSF code tree. Meaning that within the same cell, you don't repeat the use of your OVSF code. You maintain orthogonal relationship among all users. But between two cells, you do repeat. There is definitely, the same code is repeated. So how do you take care of that? Well, so there are two things. Like in the 2G case, how did you manage the repetition of the, say, violet cell? How did you manage that? Because it was located at some far distance. With the distance, there is a larger path loss that makes a difference in the power. Say people from both ends are sending signal to the base station. Okay. So in 2G, you receive from your user and this is a user from the co-channel. Okay. So the power from this guy suffers more path loss, so the receive power is less. So it's an interference, but you can manage. Okay. You can you need to this is the cell, intended user in your own cell. This is from the co-channel cell. So you get signal on the same resource, on the same frequency and same time slot from both of them. But it still works because that one has lower power. So you can separate your own signal, your own information. Yeah. Now I'm talking about 2G. Now this is the example of 2G. In the 2G case, you could repeat. So because of the path loss, you could manage the limitation. Okay. First of all, you have to repeat because you have limited resource. Secondly, you can manage the repetition because you repeat it, you don't repeat within the same cell. The point I want to make here that you cannot repeat within the same cell. But in a different cell, you can guarantee that it will be located farther, offering you less power or offering more path loss or less power. So power difference. Your intended power will be higher than the undesired power. So you can guarantee. However, within the same cell, you cannot guarantee. Some people within the same cell can be located, when you initiate the call, he can be located closer. But he can move further. A further user can get closer. Within the same cell, people are mobile, moving. So within the same cell, you cannot guarantee that these two people, one of them will be closer, the other will be further. So you must maintain orthogonal relationship. You cannot guarantee any power difference in power reception. But if two people in two different cells, you know that, okay, it will be closer, the other will be, okay, the power difference you can guarantee. And based on that, you can manage. So within the same cell, there is no repetition. In 2G, neither in 2G nor in 3G. You maintain orthogonal relationship. If there is no further code available in the OVSF code and you still, more people want to make calls, okay, you cannot permit. You have limited resources. Okay. So every technology has a limited capacity. So it indicates your capacity. Same limited. Maybe you have to install another base station to increase the capacity. So there is some limitation in the capacity, definitely, for every technology. So this is how you get limited. Okay. Now, how do you manage in others? If the OVS code is repeated in a different cell, we know that power, you have some power from other cell too. First of all, the power will be less. Okay. Secondly, there is another level of use of PN code. OVSF code is a type of PN code, and most people know. Our early discussions are known to some other people in our country, like other CDMA experts. But the later part of the discussion, as I have seen, people don't know or they don't know clearly. The point is, between two cells, another PN code is used on top of OVSF code. And this PN code does not have orthogonal relationship. The one used here is called gold code. Okay, these are some class of codes like OVSF codes, gold codes, or some class of codes which generates many codes, and they are allocated to different people. And this gold cores, the cores it generates, don't maintain orthogonal relationship. However, the correlation properties are good, very good, although not perfect. When you say orthogonal, it's a perfect correlation. It's not orthogonal, it's not perfect, but correlation properties are very good. Like, you have some correlation peaks, definitely, but in other cases, it also gives you pretty low values with gold cores. Okay, we won't delve into the details of gold cores. All you need to understand that gold core is popular, even it is used in 4G, in LTE, there's use of gold cores. So it's very popular because of its good correlation properties. Now, different cells are allocated different gold cores. Okay? And and then there is another type of operation with this code. So first you spread with your own OVSF code, and that process is called spreading. After this spreading, there is another process. This process is called scrambling. This one is done using OVSF code. OVSF code is used here. And this one is done using gold code. Okay. And for the scrambling operation, we won't go into the details, and actually the detailed operation has some variations too. The point is, in the case of spreading, you already increase the number of cores. That's why it's called spreading. And the spreading factor might be 1632. Okay, so with a good factor, you already have spread your cores. You don't have the luxury to further increase the number of bits. Okay? The ultimate transmission rate is fixed, 3.84 megachips per second. So your information, you have already spread, you have already increased in number, so you cannot further increase, you don't have the luxury. Then your information rate will be even lower. It will remain nothing then. Right? So scrambling does not increase the number of bits. So this way it does not spread, or it doesn't. It keeps the number of bits the same, but it adds the correlation property of the code. So every case is allocated a particular gold code, and then it adds the correlation property to the bits on which it works on. This scrambling operation, like after spreading, it takes the bits at every 10 milliseconds. In 10 milliseconds, you get 38,400 bits, because you have 3.84 mega chips or bits, whatever, per second. So, yeah. Spreading is the operation we explained in the last class. Like you increase, you had your original information, for example here like this, and this one was your code, OVSF code, you multiplied, and that gave you, say here 8 states, right? You had only 2. So, but here you get actually 8 bits. So this was the operation, spreading operation. You have a particular OVSF code, every user has a particular OVSF code, the information is multiplied, and then, you increase the number of bits by the length of the code. So that is the factor by which you increase. Okay, so. I'm sorry, say that again. Threshold? No, we haven't discussed any threshold here. The number of bits is increased by the length of your code. If you are allocated a code with 32 bits length. Okay? If you are allocated this code is 32 bits long. And then your information will get multiplied by 32. Whatever you want to transmit will first get multiplied by 32 and then you transmit. Got the point? So it spreads. So you don't have the luxury to further spread. So in the next state, there is no spreading. It keeps the number of bits the same, but it still adds some correlation property. How is it done? Yeah. No, it neither increases nor decreases the data. So you take this many bits after spreading at every 10 milliseconds, and then take your scrambling operation. I'm just writing down plus to, because it's not plus really, but you take your scrambling code, the gold code. The gold code, this is the information. I don't mean an addition here, rather I mean scrambling, but there's no symbol for scrambling. So you take the code, gold code, which is also 38,400 bits long. And then a scrambling operation is done, which is a complex procedure, which generates again 38,400 bits. These 38,004 bits have got the correlation property of this code to some good extent, not fully. Okay? But after scrambling operation, it has attained the correlation property of the code to some good extent. Okay? Now, every cell in the downlink uses a unique gold code in the downlink. So that is used for all downlink transmissions within the same cell. Okay, all kinds of downlink transmissions. Not all, there is some very few control channels. Okay, except them, which are right after you power up your phone. Okay, just right after. But from then onwards, whatever transmissions you receive are scrambled by a fixed gold code of from this bit. But this one uses a different gold code. So the users here, a user here may receive a transmission from here and from here. And both of them are using the same OVSF code. Okay? Because the OVSF code is repeated. So the same OVSF code. But you see that, of course here the receiver, in all kinds of use of PN codes or CDMA concepts, both sides must know the code first of all. It has to know. So it knows the right code, right, scrambling code. It can differentiate. Because I said that the gold code has some good correlation property. Although it is not orthogonal. If it was orthogonal, then they could completely actually separate. So it cannot be fully separated, but it can be separated to some good extent because of very good cross correlation properties. Okay, so it can separate. But it wouldn't, it is made a lot easier because of the larger path loss. Because the undesired one comes with less power. Okay, this makes a good difference. This assists a lot. What you need to remove, okay, comes with less power. So correlation property. So two things help together. First, this scrambling code. These codes are called scrambling codes. Codes used for scrambling operation. Okay, so scrambling codes. Secondly, the desired transmission has higher power compared to the undesired one. So So now compared to 2G case, you could separate the undesired one because although the same resources were used, because that came with less power. Okay. Well, I do understand. Then in the case of 2G, it may have been little farther. Here it may be like just the next cell, adjacent cell. So the difference in power is not that much. But here you see that I have used scrambling code. Okay, but in the case of 2G, there is nothing as such, right? The same frequencies were used there. So here, there's scrambling. On top of that, you have power difference. So you don't need that much power difference, meaning that even in the next cell, you can use. Okay, you can use in this. So all cells do use the same spectrum at all times, and that's how it is made possible. Now in the downlink, these codes are called primary scrambling code, or PSC. I'm not writing it down here because I wrote it here. In the downlink, it's called primary scrambling code, or PSC. So this one has a particular PSC, this one has a different PSC, and since it uses the PSC for all downlink transmissions to anybody, even on control channel, on most control channels. So this particular code can be regarded as the identity of this cell. Right now, just assume omni cell. So every cell is identified with its own primary scrambling code. In the course, each 30,400 bits long, have some codes are picked for downlink uses, and they are not many in number, just 512. So only 512 PSCs are specified for use. So all 3G networks in the world use this same set of 512 primary scrambling codes. Okay? Any network anywhere in any cell, you must get one of these 512 PSCs. Okay, but why it is 512? Well, a number around 500 can ensure that, this is an experience from the radio planers, that 500 is a number which is neither too low nor too high, to ensure two things. That if I allocate different such codes, say PSCs, I number from 1 through 512. So I allocate number, say, 60 to someone, another cell number 72, another cell 230. So I can allocate different cells, different such codes, assuming that there is no repetition in the neighborhood or in close proximity. There's no repetition. 500 is such a good number, high enough to make sure that there is no repetition in the close proximity. Secondly, it is also not too high. It is not unnecessarily high. If I had 10,000, that's not required, because 500 is good enough to make sure that when it is repeated, it is enough for. You can just ignore. You just assume that its signal is not arriving. Okay. But so making it higher than 500 is unnecessary. But what is the problem if you make it higher? Well, the problem is that if you can limit the number, okay, the correlation properties can be a little better. Okay, so there is a number around 500 is selected. Well, in LT also, so this PSC is actually used as an identity. When you first power up the phone, initially it has to differentiate transmission from different cells. I'll show you, inshallah, using the tool, that it identifies different cells around. And these cells are identified with their PSC numbers. So you'll see that the tool will show you, we'll hook up the phone with our software, with the laptop, which has the software, and that will show you whatever cells it is identifying around. Some PSC with say 30, some PSC with 314, so different PSC. So the cells are identified. So PSC is the primary level of identity for a cell. Although this number is repeated somewhere else. Yeah. PSC is actually a gold code. Okay. But 512 such gold codes are just identified or for use around the world, everywhere. Only those fixed codes are used. And it's again a PN sequence, and I could write down an example of the PN sequence, gold code used here, but you see that it is 38,400 bits long. So if I start now, it will be the next day. Yeah, the bit sequence is fixed, definitely. This 512 pieces, the bit sequences are definitely fixed. Like the OVSF code, it's a fixed bit sequence anyway. So it identifies, when you first power up the phone, it identifies which bit sequence it is out of the 512. And that requires actually the correlation operation we explained. Okay. At one stage, it gets 8 PSCs that my cell will be one of these 8. Then it just straight performs the correlation example we used. For cross correlation, we use that you pick another one, then try the next. This is how you finally, when I show you with the software that it had identified different cells, 512, 30, 40, the way the phone has identified is actually using the same correlation. And first, out of 512, it reduced the search space by 64, by a factor 64. So you get 8. 64 by 8 gives you 512. So it gets 8. And then from 8, it just states that correlation process to find out the right PSC. Cross correlation, yeah. No, it's not multiplication. Actually, it's a complex operation, very complex operation. Okay. It's neither, it's none of the processes we have discussed so far. It's a complex operation, and there are even multiple options of the process. Okay. Now, that's about downlink. However, in the uplink, things are a little different. It's again, the only difference is the number of codes, or the way the codes are allocated. Okay, again, it is some gold code, and the same way you differentiate in the uplink, the users are separated, like when this guy is transmitting in the uplink, the two base stations differ. This one, of course, receives, and this guy discards. Okay? This guy discards this uplink transmission, but how does it do that? Because its own, the guy who is using the same OVSF code here, which is the actual intended guy for this guy, okay, will have higher power. And there is the PN sequence or the gold code is different. That's how it separates. Okay. But in this case, you see that these people are not immobile. The base stations, we say that we identified using the PSC because the base stations are fixed. Did you see any base stations to move around? You didn't. So they're fixed. So you can allocate a fixed PSC. But if I allocate a permanent scrambling code to this guy, and he keeps moving, okay, what will happen? Say the same code you are allocating here. Okay, the same code. So he is moving, he can come here, and he can confuse. The OVSF code is the same, and the PN code may also be the same, so it can confuse, right? So permanently, we cannot allocate a PN code, fixed PN code. Rather, the way it is handled is completely, using sort of too much flexibility. Is that let us allocate separate codes to everybody. let us try not to repeat anywhere in the whole country. Never, okay? So the codes are taken, it's almost 17 million. There are almost 17 million. Okay, it's again 30,400 bits, chips long, but instead of only 512. In the uplink, there are as many cores as you need. Okay? Because correlation doesn't have to be perfect. Correlation doesn't have to be. The uplink, yeah. Probably in the whole country, the goal code is not repeated anywhere. Yeah, the different base stations just allocate different set of codes. So there are almost 17 million codes. So there is no limitation in the. No, you can actually allocate different codes. There can be. From the network side, you manage distribution of the codes within the same cell. You try to make sure that you are not repeating anywhere. You use some kind of management that, okay, in this part I am using this part of the course, this many codes. Here I am using this many codes. Try to make sure that there's very slim chance that the same code is repeated anywhere. Okay, or almost no chance. The people in Chittagong will be using different codes here in uplink. Okay, well, there is another point that when you move to another cell and you get, there's a handover process. Okay, so you are allocated then resources anew. In fact, your OVSF cores are again allocated. It may not be the same OVSF code, like the way it is done in 2G. You are allocated new 200 kilohertz chunks, and everything is allocated completely. The old allocations are no longer used. It's a new allocation. So your PN code will also be allocated anew. Anyway, but on this side, since this gold course can have pretty good correlation even when you take that large pool. Okay, so why bother trying to getting it limited and keeping any chance of problem? So let us make a very large pool. That's the concept. No. These cores are always just allocated live. For only when you are using some service. In idle mode, there is no code allocated. There's no code allocated, neither uplink code nor OVSF codes. But the base station has a fixed PSC anytime. Otherwise, all these codes are allocated live. How do you make? Do you have two wives? Oh, sorry. Sorry, I don't want to hurt you. Oh, yeah, one of them. Yeah, then definitely you are allocated some new set of codes. Yeah. Just like 2G cases, we allocate new 200 kilohertz resource or time frequency resources. The codes will also be different every time you get. Okay, there is almost no chance that you get the same resource. Okay, because things are so randomly managed and so many users are handled. So the management is about so many people, so much resources. There's almost no chance in any technology that you make 2 consecutive calls and you get the same resource. Okay. Sorry, please say that again. Right. By resource, I mean you use that to transfer data. No, never. Every base station in the downlink is allocated a single code. One of the 512 is allocated one of the 512 PSC that it uses for all downlink transmissions. This one uses separate. That's why I was saying that when the phone is powered up, it identifies say PSC, say for example, say 35. As these PSCs are all fixed, 5 and 12. Okay? So this one may have say PSC 384. Okay? This base station may have say PSC 126. But everybody would have uniqueness in a neighborhood. This 126 will be repeated somewhere else, definitely. Because 500, you don't have only 500 base stations, you have a lot more than that.
What does it mean by there are 24 rows? Why does it 24?
Okay, I mean, the way it is taken, there are 2 to the power. I mean, we didn't discuss the generation of the gold cores. In fact, I have cut down a part this year because I had little bit discussion on the generation of the gold cores in previous years, but that is not enough interesting. The way, I mean, it is again you use some flip-flops and all that, and you generate. Yeah, the number of cores available is 2 to the power 24. In fact, the whole code length is not 13,400. The way it is generated, the whole length is that big, 2 to the power 24 minus 1. But it is truncated to 30,400. Okay, and that still maintains good correlational properties. It is also true for downlink. The actual length of the code, the way it is generated, or the way the gold cores are invented, okay, it generates, it's not that small. It is 2 to the power 18 minus 1. That's the length of the code. Okay. For OVSF, we had 4, 8, 32. Like here, the code length is 2 to the power 18 minus 1, but it is truncated to 30,400. Yeah. Right. That is true for most PN sequence classes. That you can increase the number of, the length of the code, and so the number of cores too. As you increase the length, the number also increases. The available.
The number we get is 70 million. It's still a smaller number because in our community it's not 70 million.
No, all people don't make calls together, right? So if you think about the number of people in calls or in service at a time, it's not that many. Like here, most people are not using any service. Only a few people may be playing online at the rare benches. Okay. So likewise, there may be a lot of subscribers, but how many are in service at a time? That's a very small fraction. Okay, got it?
But how does this phone stays connected to the base station all the time, right?
No, it is not. Never. Never. Then if you want to know in that detail, then you have to take a course offered here in 4th year, titled Cellular Communication. Okay. The bottom line is, there is a idle mode and there is a dedicated mode. When you are making a call or you are starting a data session, then you move to this dedicated mode, and then you will be allocated OVSF code, TN code, and all that. Unless while you are in idle mode, you have no resources allocated, even in 2G or whatever the G is. No, frequency resource time slots have been allocated. When you are in idle mode, when you are not making any call. Yeah. Then you have to just go for that course. This is the total pool they put in front, and then allocate different people, different cores from this pool. Okay, they try not to repeat the code within the whole network. Okay, for uplink users. Anything else? There is the last slide here for CDN. Yeah, okay. Now move to the next discussion. Well, it is, we still have half an hour, right? Okay. Now, this particular presentation, I'll go through faster because I don't want you to memorize the particular type of models. Okay. The purpose here is to show that there are more models to estimate path loss than what we just discussed before the meet, like free-space model, two-ray model. Okay. What did you do there? When we discussed the fading, first we mentioned that the signal variation can be regarded either as a large scale variation or a small scale variation, large scale and a small scale fading. The path loss models like free-space or two-ray, log distance models, also we discussed, these all estimate large scale signal variation. The signal dies out over the distance, and in a large scale, it finds out an estimation of this signal variation or how much the power drops on the way. Okay, there are many other models for estimation, and we'll just share some of the examples. And new models are coming up, so it doesn't make sense that you memorize some models. Secondly, these models are nothing but some given equation for your path loss. Okay, either you can use, it can be most of the time in our discussion before meet, we showed the receipt power in terms of PR, showed the equation, but somewhere we might have the term PL, right? So once you know the transmitting side information and you know how much power is lost on the way, which is path loss, you can determine PR. Okay. So transmitted side information and PL can give you the GR, receiving side gain also is required. Then you can estimate PL. But most models directly give you the value of PL. So you use it for your transmission cases. Then you estimate your PR. Okay, now these are so we're talking about large scale fading here. In the path loss model, if you are given this path loss and if you know the transmit power side, okay, how much power it is transmitting, or EIRP, okay, PTGT together, if that is given, then the receipt power can be calculated. Sorry, did I write it down somewhere? I didn't. Oh yeah, okay. Just P times G. Okay, another way. Okay, maybe I come back here later because it may be confusing now. I'll come back to that slide later. So all we are interested in now, how we can estimate the path loss. There are basically 3 ways to do that, and so the equations for path loss are also determined in 3 different ways. First, like deterministic models. The way we did it for our two-ray model or free-space system, we use some physics or say engineering concepts to estimate the power. So this is deterministic models. But in reality, there are so much unpredictable clutter in the environment that this type of models especially are not good for cellular cases or in non-LOS cases which use a big part of the culture of the environment, clutter of the environment. So cellular case is the worst example where the different buildings or say foliage and say all different things in the environment can impact your signal. So altogether, when it's never possible for anyone to estimate the effects from all of them. So rather, if you do some tests for say city area or say for densely populated city area, for different types of environment, you do tests and check how the signal is varying with distance. Most of the time when you write down PL, the most important factor here is the D. How much the PL is varying with G. Okay. So for different distances, how it varies, what equation can best represent. So you rather do different tests for different types of environment and then establish using some curve fitting or whatever an equation suggested so to other people. They don't have to redo the test, they can instead use if the type of environment matches. So if you go for complete tests, then it's empirical models. The term model may, don't get scared by that. It just means an equation for your PL. Just a single n equation can be enough. And a semi-deterministic model is something that incorporates the test as well as your physical understanding, physical concepts. So if you combine these two concepts and to generate your equation for PL, it's semi-deterministic. So we'll just show a few examples. Oh, sorry. So, and let me tell you, the empirical models are most popular for cellular case. These are some popular models, but there are many popular models. And a tool will be demonstrated at all. You see that it lists a good number of models that you want to select for your simulation. So I even don't think that you need to memorize. Okay, maybe you just memorize the names. Okay, and there are many other models. Like ITU is suggesting new models. These are called ITU path models. First popular model was given by Okumura. He did a lot of tests in Tokyo and back in 1960, long ago. And this was popular for a very long period. And then Hata modified his model to some extent. Like his original model was valid for only the urban areas. It did tests only in Tokyo. So but his model was popular because in rural areas, people don't spend much for the deployment, or they don't have very careful deployment because there is very little revenue. Most of the revenue comes from the urban areas. Since it's all about business, they have careful planning and tests. So, okay. So later the modified version was called Hata model or Okumura Hata model. And this was you see that this L represents the path loss. Path loss in dB, you find out using this expression. Hata model derive some expressions for suburban areas and rural areas, rural or open areas too. Original Okumura was only for urban areas. And this A, B, C, A, C, D, R, these are all like some here. FC is the carrier frequency, HP is the height of the base station, actually the height of the antenna on the tower. Okay, the antenna may be located here. So this height is what we have here, HB. What else? HM is the height of the mobile, which you may take just 1 meter or something. Or sorry, even less. You do have to, but others don't. Okay. And this is again a further modification. Okay. In this case, because the original model was applicable for only only up to 1500 megahertz, and early deployments were limited within this. Later, some bands became popular around 200 megahertz, and it is still popular. Here, but the bands we are using are either around 900 or around 2000. Okay. 1900 and 1800 bands are very popular in our country. So, which is the for the downlink range, it can be in the 2100. So around 200. So they later extended to it was called cost, which could be used up to 2 gigahertz. In fact, it is used up to 2.1 gigahertz. So the bands we are using today, and this cost 231 was very popular. Okay. HATA or cost 231. These are all modifications. This is another type of model, RSEG model. Okay, just to give an example, there are many models as such. And see again, you use some parameter, you see that in the equation, you have D, which is most important. Lambda comes from the frequency, and it also gives you for different types of environment, this terrain A, B, C are, did I miss? Okay, A, B, C. A is the hilly terrain with moderate to heavy type of tree density. C is mostly flat. B is hilly terrain with light tree. So you see the different types of environment. Now, among these different models, some models are better suited for some types of environments. Okay, so for some frequencies. So depending on your environment and frequency, you may select a model from the whole set. Okay, I don't want to go further here. Just for these different types of terrain, you have different values for the constants that you use. Okay, to determine gamma here, which is used in the equation for PL here. Okay, and this here an example from semi-deterministic model. Okay, cost 231 Wolfish Ikegami. This one is popular for environments like we have in the old city, old Dhaka, where we have narrow alleys between many buildings. Okay. Narrow roads or narrow alleys. So here, width of the roads are also included in the model. Height of the buildings. Okay. Anyway, so I don't want to go into the detail. Deterministic models are, again, I just give just the example. This log distance pathless model we already discussed. It's the same thing here. Okay. One type of model I will discuss little more understanding. This is something I already discussed. Log distance pathless model. However, there can be a variant which is called log normal path loss model. Okay, this one when I was talking about path loss exponent, probably you remember, I actually discussed this log distance path model. I also told you that our book includes a table for different potential values of this path loss exponent for different types of environment. So this is the same table. Okay. Yeah, I think it's the same table. So anyway, it gives you the values for path loss. Okay, probably there is another table. I spoke of a different table. Okay, anyway, so for path loss exponent, different types of environments, the ranges, okay, are given from some test real actually. But still it is categorized as deterministic model. Now finally, log normal shadowing. Well, little more we'll talk about it. Whatever we are finding out as our estimated power, ultimately from the path loss, we want to estimate the visit power. But things are in fact very random or unpredictable. So it is better to state the power in terms of probability. It makes better sense. Like you can say that, well, I wanna have coverage up to this border. Okay, say maybe you put a base station here, and at the boundary of IUT, and up to the boundary of IUT, you wanna maintain a coverage. So what if you find that, okay, I need this kind of power, minimum. At the minimum, I need this kind of power. So you say, okay, your calculation is made as such that up to the boundary, at the boundary, say, for example, say minus 70 dBm. So after your design, you declare that at the boundary of IUT, you get minus 70 dBm. But things should be, it makes better sense that you rather get things in a probabilistic way. You say that, okay, I have a chance of 80% that I get this much power over there. Because of the unpredictable things and time varying effects and all that, or maybe we just consider unpredictable things in the environment. You rather say that, okay, there's 80% chance that I have this much power over there. Or you say that, okay, you are within the coverage. Okay, within IUT, even around the people around the boundary walls, people are covered. But you say that, okay, there is 80% chance that along the boundary line, I have people covered. Because things are not, can be less guaranteed, and they are more unpredictable. Things are actually a probabilistic distribution. So when you include this probabilistic, this fact of probabilistic distribution, then of course you need some probabilistic, some known probabilistic distribution parameter, and in this case, the Gaussian distribution is added just to log distance path loss model. You add a Gaussian distribution to this expression, and that is then called log normal, because Gaussian distribution is also called normal distribution. We call it log normal path loss model. That's it. The mean of this Gaussian parameter is taken 0. That converts the total PL into a Gaussian distribution, with its mean shifted to this value. So you find out this one, if I give a problem in the exam, you find out this one, and that will be the mean of your Gaussian distribution for path loss model. And Gaussian distribution also needs variance, which may be given. So you can then determine what is the probability for you to get particular path loss or particular power at a distance. So this one is your Gaussian, zero mean Gaussian distribution. Okay. Now in some courses Gaussian distribution may have been covered. I'm not sure. So I'll quickly go through the distribution little bit. Okay. She wants me not to go further today. Okay, do you want to stop me here? Do you want me to stop here? Okay. Okay, but do you have any questions on whatever we discussed so far? I haven't yet set the question for our upcoming class test, but I think there will be problems. Maybe there may be two problems from lecture 14 and 15. One from 14 and 15. Okay, so the best for you to check the questions of previous years, and this is something you should do for all courses, even when you prepare for class tests. Okay, as you prepare throughout the course, you should first, right in the beginning of the semester, you should collect all the questions from mid-semester. Okay, and put them in front of you as you prepare. Okay, so check the questions and then prepare accordingly for your problems. Okay.